Good morning. Welcome to the Long Live Alternative Parties podcast. Free Press Media Press Inc., an alternative parties books publisher, sponsors this podcast. I'm Andrew Bouchard.
Welcome to the Long Live Alternative Parties podcast. Today we have a guest who's going to share with us some exciting stuff. His name is Anthony. He's got to tell us some exciting things about what he's doing. So welcome to the podcast, Anthony.
Thanks for having me, Andrew.
Glad to have you. Well, let us get started by you kindly giving us an introduction to yourself, a brief biographical sketch.
So my name is Anthony Dipaolo. I'm currently a freshman at the University of Dayton, and I'm the president and founder of the College Libertarian Club at the school. I've been a Libertarian for the last couple of years. Before that, I considered myself a Republican, but now I'm focused on more of the third-party cause, looking at the Libertarian Party, and I'm trying to promote libertarianism on the University of Dayton campus.
Excellent. So what led you to the Libertarian Party in general? You did mention a prior Republican background. How did you get from there to the Libertarian Party?
Yeah, so I'd always considered myself more of a Republican when I was younger, and then kind of when COVID hit, I was getting annoyed with the government restrictions, and I started being exposed to more libertarian ideas, specifically from Peter Schiff, who's, I'm not sure if you know who that is, but he's a billionaire economist, and he's extremely libertarian. So I listened to some podcasts from him, and I've read a few books like Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell, and I've really, throughout the pandemic, as I saw what I felt was government overreach, it helped me see that libertarianism is what fits best for me.
Interesting. I've heard a lot of libertarians talk about pandemic restrictions. I haven't heard anyone say the pandemic restrictions themselves led into libertarianism, so that is something new for me.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's more of maybe these beliefs I had were somewhere in my subconscious, but they didn't really formulate until they had some causation. Like the pandemic was kind of a turning point for me. But really, my actual personal views haven't changed. Like my personal convictions are exactly the same as they were before, basically. My only difference is that I've been able to separate what I perceive as personal views and political views. So that's kind of how I see it. I see it as two different things.
So how do you separate the two? How do you make the distinction between personal views and political views?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is something I haven't heard many people talk about this way, so I'll try to explain in my own words. So I guess, let's say you're a person who doesn't drink alcohol, you don't use drugs, right? That's your personal view. You might think that these things are bad and that you don't want to use them and you would prefer if people around you didn't use them. Okay, so that might be your personal view. However, politically, from my view, I have no right to tell other people what they can and can't do. So my view is, although I wouldn't use drugs and alcohol, I have no right to tell other people what they can and can't do. So like my philosophy would go all the way to the extremes, or my political views rather would go all the way to the extremes. Like I think all drugs should be legal. Like I don't think I have a right to tell people what they can and can't do, even if I believe it's not in their best interest. So those are my political views. However, personally, I would always, try to convince people not to do bad things that I perceive as bad, and I still have my own personal convictions that are far different from my political views.
Okay, that makes sense. Similarly, you wouldn't advise someone to go out and eat 10 Big Macs, but they have the right to do so, right?
Yep, that's how I see it.
All right, makes sense. So what led you to start this chapter at your college?
Yeah, so I got to Dayton, the University of Dayton, and I'd always kind of wanted to create a libertarian club when I was there. That was something I always wanted to do if there wasn't a club already there. And it turns out there was no libertarian club at the University of Dayton. And the University of Dayton is around 10,000 people, so it's not like a tiny school. It's not a huge school, but it's a good-sized school. So I was a bit surprised that there was no libertarian club. And for the first semester of my freshman year, so this past fall, I was in Turning Point USA, which is I'm not sure how it's defined. It's not defined as political, but it's kind of what you'd consider far right. Charlie Kirk would be someone who's kind of famous Canto, and they run that. They're high up in Turning Point USA. So I was in that first semester, and well, some things I agree with, like a lot of the moral and personal convictions of the people in that club. I didn't fully agree with the political aspect of it, and I just felt that there should be a libertarian club on campus, as there was a college Republicans, college Democrats, college Democratic Socialists, yet there was no college libertarians. So I thought I would fill in that gap.
Sounds like a good move. So how did they react? Did Turning Point disown you? Did they not care? How did they react?
Oh, no, Turning Point, I really like the members there, good people. We actually have I think the president of Turning Point USA is also in our club now as well. So Turning Point, the thing is, it's not, like I said, it's not considered a political group. It's more of, I don't know, what would the right word be here? It's not associated with a party, so it's kind of just like a group of like-minded people. It's mostly conservatives and libertarians. I think it's more heavily skewed to conservatives, so yeah, that's why there can be some similarities between the two.
So you're at the College of Dayton. Kindly tell our listeners, you already mentioned it's about 10,000 people. What is the city that surrounds it like, and what is the campus like in demographics, in student characteristics? So give us an overview of what that's like.
Yeah, so the University of Dayton is a private Marianist university. About 60% of its students are Catholic, so it's not, even though it's a religious university, a Catholic Marianist university, not everyone there has to be Catholic, so it's more just of a private school. They're not super religious, but that is an important aspect of the school. Demographically speaking, I think most people at the school would fall into the wealthier class of people. I think if you surveyed most people come from a wealthier background, family-wise. So I think the political views might be skewed conservative at Dayton, which I think is a good opportunity because, as I believe, there's definitely some overlap between conservatism and libertarianism. So I saw that as an opportunity. And then the city as a whole, Dayton, I would want to say maybe 150,000 to 200,000 people. So it's not a huge city, but it's also not like a suburb or a farm town. It's still a city. There's some rougher areas around the city. There's also some nicer suburbs, but around the area is very conservative. The city is probably 50-50 for Democrats and Republicans, but it's a good area where I think libertarian ideology could definitely be made as a good alternative.
Interesting. So you mentioned that because the students there are wealthier, they tend to skew conservative. So do you think a person's economic status affects their political views?
Yeah, I think if you were to take a look at, if you took data and based on wealth, I would assume that wealthier people tend to be conservative, and poor people tend to be on the Democrat side. That might not be 100% true, but I'm sure there's definitely some sort of correlation between those two things. And I just know that a lot of people from my town, at least I'm from a suburb of Columbus, Ohio, and it's a wealthy area, and most people are Republican that I know, and it's a very wealthy area. So there's obviously some wealthy Democrats, but I think in a certain school like Dayton, where it's a private Catholic school, so maybe that also plays a factor. Maybe it's not so much to do with wealth, but I think that's also a factor. The fact that it's a private Catholic school also definitely has a factor to do with that.
Sure. So how has the reception been to the Libertarian Club?
Yeah, so I created the club last October, I believe, and we were going to start full recruitment, full club meetings, stuff like that in the spring semester. So that's what we're focused on now. So we're going to be starting to do like what a normal political club on a campus would do. We're going to start doing that in this upcoming week, starting in January. So we're not sure what the reception will be yet. We're kind of just starting out. It's a pretty small group of people at first. We have 3 people that are running the club. Obviously me, one of them. And then we have a few other members besides of that. But at the start of the semester, we have a recruitment week for all the different clubs on campus. So, we'll be having a table and we'll be having discussions with people. So I think it will be interesting. And I think most importantly, it's going to come down to people like me and the other people in the club having conversations with people, because a lot of people don't understand what libertarianism is. Maybe they've heard of it, but they don't really have any sort of clue what the ideology is, what the political views are. So it's going to be basically just exposing people to the ideas and trying to convince them to take a leap and join the club.
So what role responsibilities do you have? Since you created the club, it sounds like you would have a lot of say over what the role responsibilities would be. So what are the role responsibilities of your position?
Yeah, so obviously I founded this, and I'm the president of it. So we have a constitution and stuff like that, and we have a vice president and a treasurer. So obviously certain responsibilities will go on to those people. And I think for me, what my main tasks and responsibilities are is just kind of getting this on the right path right at the start, and creating a clear vision for what we're trying to do. And it's kind of like marketing, right? Trying to get people who maybe are in like our target market to come in and join the club. So that's really my key focus for the next couple months is going to be trying to get a solid member base. Because without a base, we can't really do much in the future. If every year there's only like 5 people, that's not going to work. So I'm aiming to try to get to 30 people for this semester, at the start of the semester when we do this recruitment. That's what I'm aiming for. So we'll see. I mean, libertarians only make up a small percentage of the U.S. population, so if that's anything to go off of, I think that's a reasonable amount of people to try to get.
All right. So you mentioned you're trying to reach your target market, and earlier we talked about how wealthier people tend to be conservative. Are wealthier people part of your target market? If not, what is your target market?
No, definitely. We're not going to be looking for specifically wealthy people on the campus. That was kind of just a broad generalization I made. But what we're going to be looking for is, when we're recruiting, we're going to be looking for people who obviously, we're going to be talking to people at this recruitment event with all the other clubs, and it's going to be more of, it's not something where you can just advertise like you're selling goods, right? It's not like we're selling a bottle of Coke or something. It's more going to have to come through conversation. So the question is, what is our target market? And I'm not sure yet, right? I'm really not sure. I think most libertarians I know are men. The few amount of libertarians I know tend to be men. Our vice president is a woman, though, so we'll see. I think, obviously, we would love to have any sort of demographic group in our club. No discrimination there. We'd love to have everyone. It's just, I would assume that more people that are joining the club could be men than women.
So why do you think that would be the case? Why do you think there's less women than men who are libertarians?
I think that it comes down to authority, because obviously that's what libertarianism is. We're hoping to create smaller government, and I think men typically rebel against authority to a larger extent than women might do, psychologically speaking. Behavior is usually way less agreeable on average. So I think if any group of people is gonna be looking at the libertarian cause, could be young men. I think they could be a big demographic group, because especially with COVID, I think there's a huge opportunity here with COVID, because a lot of people just are very, very disenchanted with people trying to tell them that there's a solution to everything, and that all these politicians run every year and they tell us they're going to fix everything that's wrong with our country. And I think people are just starting to realize that it's all kind of BS a little bit. So we'll see. I think, back to your question, young men, I think that's why I think they're just less agreeable.
Interesting. So is there anything about your campus that you and the Libertarian Club would like to change?
Well, I mean, the thing is, obviously, Dayton is a private university, so they have the right to do, from my political viewpoint, they have the right to do whatever they want. As of now, there's no vaccine mandate at our campus. A lot of campuses do, though. We got a little bit lucky in that aspect. So, yeah, we're happy about that. But obviously, from my viewpoint, this is, again, try to be principled in what we believe. If Dayton decided to do a vaccine mandate, they're a private school, they should have the right to do that, from my point of view. And then that would come back to me. The question is, do I stay at the school? If I'm unvaccinated, I am vaccinated. But if I was unvaccinated, would I leave the school or would I stay at the school and get vaccinated? It comes up to, that would be my choice. And then the question is, where would I go? Well, from the libertarian point of view, the free market, someone will have a university where there isn't vaccine mandates, and I can go to that university, and they're going to get an increase in demand because of the substitute university having a vaccine mandate. So I think the free market will determine that. I do have a bit of an issue when public schools, public universities start doing this. But yeah, back to Dayton, what would I change on campus? Again, libertarianism, the way I see it, the philosophy I'm trying to preach is the personal and the political being a little bit separated. So I don't think I would really change much on campus because, like I said, I think they have the right to do that, to do the things they do. Like, we have masks that we have to wear in certain buildings, which I disagree with. But again, that's the school's choice to do, and they're private. I may try to convince them. So I guess if that's what you're asking, yeah, maybe we try to convince them to stop having mask mandates. But at the end of the day, it's up to them.
All right, makes sense. So for our listeners out there, whether they live in your area or elsewhere, how can they support the Libertarian Club at the University of Dayton?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing, obviously the people listening to this, they're not going to be able to really have a huge effect of one college club, one libertarian club at a single college like Dayton. I think it comes down to openly expressing your views and always pursuing what you see as the truth. I think too many times in my life and in a lot of people's lives, we don't be truthful with how we really view things. We try to cover it up because we don't want to be seen as an outlier or as radical. Right? Libertarians, we're very, very small, and a lot of people think you're crazy if you're a libertarian. So I think what people can do is just be honest, right? Really, if you talk to one person and you say how you truly feel, then that will rapidly expand from just you, right? I mean, I think Jordan Peterson said it best. He said, you're really just one person away from 1,000. So I think it all starts with, if individuals just who are libertarians start convincing people around them, it will spread like rapid fire, I think, because I think it's such a good ideology if it's messaged in the correct way. If it's messaged not in the wrong way, right? We got to make it seem like it's an attractive point of view. It's an attractive political view, and yeah, I think that's how I see it.
Excellent. So Anthony, thank you for coming on the podcast today and sharing what your club is going to do and what you've been doing. We appreciate that.
Thank you, Andrew.
We wish you all the best, you and your club, in all your future endeavors.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
Take care. Bye now.